Going on, everyone? Happy Monday. I hope you all had an awesome weekend. And welcome back to our live stream from InStage that is focusing on job interviews and helping you get prepared for the upcoming roles you might be interested in. Now, as always, I'm going to do a quick sound check, make sure everyone can hear me. Stand by, folks. We'll just make sure. And we are going to pick a job that might be interesting today. Having some trouble with audio here. All right, we will see about that in just a second. What I am going to do now is I am going to jump over to Indeed here to find a job posting that works for our demo today, our quick simulation. I hope this is helpful for someone that might be interested in a tutoring position. Now, I'm going to take this title. I'm just going to take just the tutor part and put it into the InStage simulator. Copy all these job details here. Put this in and let this generate. And I'm going to jump back to the job posting here for a second because in a previous life, while I was actually in high school, used to work for this company called Tutor Doctor. And so I'm going to see if I remember what it takes to get this job. But for those of you out there who are maybe interested in a tutoring position, today especially, I think I might be able to share some interesting tips and tricks with you on how to become a tutor. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask in the chat. I'd be happy to share some of my insights because usually I will tell you I am not qualified for the job. But in this case, I have had this job before and would be very excited to share some insights with you. All right, we're going to jump over to our screen share in just a second here. All right. Our simulation is ready for us. I'm going to cut down the number of questions we're doing in here today. Let's try and just make it a little bit quicker for us. Well, there we go. All right. Wish me luck. Let's see if I have what it takes to become a tutor. And before I jump in there, I do want to make sure that this sound check is set up properly. So bear with me while I double check the sound and make sure that we're coming through clearly to everyone. We're actually broadcasting on 3 different platforms today for the first time. We are broadcasting live on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. So for those of you joining us on different platforms, I'm keeping an eye out for your questions, and I'd be happy to answer them. Send them in the chat, and we will do our best to make sure all your questions get answered here, myself and the InStage team. All right. Give me 1 second here. All right. Perfect. We got audio. We are good to go. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to be keeping an eye on you in the chat. Wish me luck.
Hello there. Welcome to the interview. I'm John, the hiring manager for this tutoring position. How are you doing today? Did you have a good weekend?
Hey there, John. It's nice to meet you. My name is Imran Muna. I had an awesome weekend. I was actually out at one of the Tough Mudder races just outside of Toronto and ran about 15 kilometers through 30 different obstacles with a group of friends of mine. How about you? How was your weekend?
Oh wow, Emron. That sounds like quite the adventure. I'm impressed by your grit and determination. As for me, my weekend was a bit more relaxed. I caught up on some reading and enjoyed a nice hike in the nearby park. Thanks for asking. So, shall we get started with the interview?
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to the interview, and that's awesome to hear that you had a good time hiking.
Awesome. Let's dive right in. Shall we? So, Emron, tell me about your previous tutoring or teaching experience. Have you worked as a tutor before?
Yes, actually, I have worked as a tutor before. As a high school student, I actually used to tutor um, through Tutor Doctor um, uh, students in my class. So I understood the lessons very well. I worked as a tutor early on to help some of my classmates make sure they understood our math assignments. So I have tutored grade 9, 10, 11, and 12 math, specifically functions and advanced functions. And I continued tutoring while I was in a university as a part-time job. So I have a ton of experience. I've learned a lot about teaching different types of students, and I've always enjoyed the opportunity to share my knowledge with people who might find it challenging. This subject, for instance, math-based subjects, and make it seem a little less daunting to them because I think once you understand it, it can be really enjoyable.
That's fantastic, Emron. It sounds like you have a wealth of experience in tutoring, especially in math. That's great to hear that you've been able to help your classmates and make challenging subjects more approachable. So, what strategies or techniques do you typically use to engage and motivate your students during tutoring sessions?
Well, what I typically do, John, is I try to get a sense of each student's personal motivation. So some of the students I'd work with, you know, they had been signed up for tutoring. They weren't, you know, personally excited about the subject. So I would take a different approach with them. I would say, hey, sooner we get through this homework, the sooner you can go and do some of the other things you are excited about. And that would be the kind of way I break into, making this a little easier for them is that, hey, math might not be your favorite thing. Let's get it done so you can go do other things. And in that way, I kind of recognize that, um, you know, where they were at. So I think that was helpful for them. Um, with some of the other students I'd work with, they were trying to fill out university applications. So these were students who are already getting, 80, 90% in the course, but wanted to take it up a notch. And with them, I could say, all right, here are some more challenging questions we can try so that come time for your exam, you're really ready. But each student had a bit of a different approach that would be necessary. So I'd like to take some time to get to know what their motivation is. And that's what I would do in this role is get to know the students first.
That's really insightful. Emron, it's great that you take the time to understand each student's motivation and tailor your approach accordingly. Building that connection with the students can make a big difference. Now, let me ask you, what motivated you to pursue a tutoring position?
Well, I find those subjects particularly interesting, and I also found them difficult when I first learned about them. So in high school, when I first started tutoring, I was, of course, um, trying to figure out what kind of skills I had that I could share with others. And because I understood math well, that was one of the first things that came to mind is that, maybe this is something I can do to help my friends. And that ended up working out well. So in university, again, when I was looking for something that I could manage while being in school, tutoring came to mind a second time. It was a skill set I developed even further by the time I went into university. I took engineering, which was heavily dependent on my math skill. And so I had become even more proficient at it and could do an even better job explaining it to students who are new to the subject. And now I'm looking to do the same thing. I think it's an important skill, one that people can find difficult to develop. But I've actually had great tutors in my past who have made the subject seem so much more approachable, and I want to do that for others as well now.
That's really inspiring. Emron, it's great that you're motivated by your own experiences and the impact that tutors had on you. Now, let me ask you a situational question. Imagine you're tutoring a student who is struggling with a particular concept in math. How would you approach explaining it to them?
Well, what I would do is, again, after I get to know students a little bit, I have a fun time coming up with a metaphor or comparable that relates to something they're interested in. So, for instance, I had one student that was really into horseback riding. and we would have to do velocity-based math questions, which are somewhat abstract. You're just dealing with velocity. But I explained here, you could think of velocity as how fast your horse is running. And so if we were looking at trying to figure out a question like when, um, would a horse finish a race based on the distance of the race and the velocity the horse was running at, it became a lot easier for them to understand the concept instead of just saying, um, you know, just using the numbers and the terms in the math problem. So I would try to, again, just get to know my students, put the questions and concepts into terms that are interesting and relatable to them. And then, of course, use the math principles to explain to them how they can solve those problems. And that's the approach I would take today as well.
That's a fantastic approach. Emron, I love how you find creative ways to make math concepts relatable to your students. It's all about finding those connections that resonate with them. Great job.
Thank you very much. It's definitely one of the things I enjoy most about tutoring.
That's really great to hear. Emron, it's clear that you're passionate about making a positive impact through tutoring. Now, I have one last question for you. Is there anything specific you'd like to know about the tutoring position or the company?
Yes. How many hours a week are you looking for someone to tutor students?
Great question. The number of hours can vary based on your availability and the number of students you choose to tutor. Typically, tutors work part-time and can select their own hours. It's quite flexible.
Okay, that's great. And when can I expect to hear about next steps?
Absolutely, Emron. After the interview process, we'll review all the candidates and make a decision. You can expect to hear from us within the next week or so with an update.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity today, John. I hope to hear from you soon.
You're welcome, Emron. It was great talking to you today. Fingers crossed for the next steps. Take care and have a fantastic day.
All right, everyone. Let's take a look at this report here. I went through the whole interview without stopping today, just so you can kind of see how it flows naturally. Many times I'll stop after each question and we talk a little bit about it, but um, don't let that stop you from asking questions. If I see questions in the chat, I'll stop and answer them. But I kind of wanted to make it through the entire interview today, just so you get a sense of what the experience is really going to be like. And as always, if you're in the live stream right now, if you've tuned in and you thought, "Wow, that's cool. How do you get access to something like this?" Send me a message. Send me a message. Send me a job posting you might be interested in. For those of you who joined us early, um, you'll remember that we just took this job posting off Indeed. This is a real job posting that's available right now. So let me switch this screen share just so I can remind anyone who's joining, who joined us partway through. This is how the system works here. We just went on Indeed, found this job posting for a tutoring position, and put it into the InStage system. Did that interaction with John, and now what we can do is look at this feedback report and see, how did we do? Are there things we can improve on? So one thing that I am constantly trying to improve is how fast I talk. I'm excited about what we're doing here. If I'm in an interview, I'm looking forward to sharing some of my experience and skill, but I do have to be careful not to speak so quickly that it's difficult for the interviewer to understand me. So that's what you're seeing here. This section highlighted in pink is telling me, okay, watch how fast you're speaking. Now, what I might do if I was you is I would go back through this, play back these responses, hear how I sounded, get a sense of whether or not, I sound confident. And then I would look at my advanced metrics here and take a look at anything that wasn't, in the exceptional category. I want all my answers to be exceptional. So I'm going to look at this one here and it says, What strategies or techniques do you use to typically engage and motivate your students? So the candidate clearly described their approach to engaging and motivating students. However, they could have provided more specific examples of the outcome. Okay, a great insight. So I actually thought this was a great answer. I thought, hey, this is a very specific example of how I engage and motivate my students. But what I didn't talk about is what the results of those techniques are. So keep that in mind when you're interviewing everyone, is that you want to relate your experience to the job. So if this is how you did things in the past, what can you do now? What have you learned that's going to help you do that role in this new job, in this new position? Share those connections. It's going to make it even easier for the interviewer to understand why you're the right fit. All right, but that's it for today, everyone. As I say, if you have questions for me, if you have questions about the interview process, if you want to see one of your jobs in the live stream, send me a message, send me the job posting. I'll put it in the system so we can all learn together. And of course, if you have just questions about job seeking in general, um, please message me as well. I'd be happy to help. And for any of you with upcoming interviews, good luck. Let me know how it goes. I'm here cheering you on, as I am cheering on all job seekers out there. And I'm wishing all of you the best. So keep in touch, send me a message, and I hope these help. All right, I'll see you tomorrow, everyone.